The patients are not happy.
He looked at my mouth and he then turned around and said that he couldn't treat my teeth on the NHS.
I was definitely given the impression that I had, my credit was used up on the NHS.
And the dentists are not happy either.
An ideal NHS patient is somebody who needs very little treatment.
Because the dentist will get the same money for doing a simple filling as doing a complicated molar root canal treatment. Well, I mean, that's utterly ludicrous.
In fact, there would be situations where it may well be worthwhile for the dentist to actually turn around to the patient and say, here's some money, please go elsewhere.
Two years ago, the government changed the contract under which dentists worked for the NHS. The idea, they said, was to improve patient choice and access. But the latest figures suggest that 500,000 fewer adults and 70,000 fewer children are getting NHS care than before. 1,000 dentists have also left the health service. Critics of the new contract say something is rotten in the state of NHS dentistry. And they're not just talking about teeth.
One day in November last year, interior designer Rebecca woke up with an excruciating toothache.
I had very bad pain in my eye tooth here, absolute agony in fact.
Yeah.
And I went to my NHS dentist. He said, well, you know, how are you going to pay for this? But I said, surely it's on the NHS. He said, well, you've had so much work done, we can't really offer you anything more on NHS, really. They gave me the impression that I'd used up my NHS credit limit.
Well, that doesn't exist. There is no such thing as an individual patient's allocation.
He said, that's going to be about £1,000. And I suggest you go away and try and find it. And I remember saying to him, I just simply don't have this kind of money to... He said, well, I'm going to be in for big problems.
Rebecca was eventually treated for free at this practice in Fulham. It's the biggest NHS dentistry in the capital, with over 60,000 patients and 600 newcomers every month. Business is booming, but manager Sharon BIERER and her dentist husband HENRIK, who run the practice, are no fans of the current contract.
I think this new contract that was imposed on us by the government is absolutely catastrophic.
Generally, poor people have got worse dental health than rich people, and therefore it's the poor people that have the high treatment needs, and they're the ones that are being disincentivized in this new contract, which I find astonishing.
Meet Dennis, a former alcoholic who was homeless for 10 years, a time in which his health and his teeth suffered severe neglect. On top of that, 3 weeks ago, he was punched in the mouth and lost another couple of teeth. Under the current government contract, he is precisely the kind of patient who gives today's NHS dentists nightmares.
Dennis is a high-needs patient with a long-standing phobia of dentists.
I heard loads of horror stories about dentists where they butchers people's mouths, and when I do go, I could shake inside, and my pain threshold is very low.
But as things stand, dentists are more likely to be scared of Dennis. They don't get paid any more for treating him than someone who needs a quick and simple filling. He's agreed to test 10 of London's NHS dentists for us. Later, we'll find out if they're prepared to take him on.
Good morning, Marylebone Dental Practice. No, I'm afraid we're not taking on any new national health patients.
At this practice in Marylebone, they've already made their decision. They no longer take NHS patients, pointing out that someone as needy as Dennis is a financial liability.
It's inevitable that there are going to be some patients who are going to be less attracted to dentists. It's a stressful enough job, and if a dentist feels that accepting a patient is going to cause problems in terms of time, economic outlay, then it's only natural that they're going to then think, well, actually, I wish this patient hadn't come in.
When Dennis did go in, 4 dentists in our survey suggested he might prefer to be treated in hospital, where he'd get better anaesthetic care.
They said I could go to the hospital if I wanted to, if I was that scared of needles.
One practice offered a surprisingly light course of treatment.
They said I needed 2 teeth out and 2 fillings.
2 extractions and 2 fillings. Is that really all he needs?
Okay. Hi, Dennis. I'm Henrik.
Hello, Henrik.
Hi. We're going to do a checkup today.
We asked Henrik at the NHS practice in Fulham to give us his verdict on how much dental work Dennis requires.
Well, in my opinion, the first thing is to see the hygienist to get his oral hygiene better. He needs 3 fillings. He needs 2 teeth taken out. Probably to start with, add on the teeth we take out onto his denture, and then in 3 to 6 months, probably a new denture.
Okay, but that sounds like quite a lot of treatment. And is it all available on the NHS?
Yeah.
But when Dennis went to one NHS practice in South London, they didn't quite see it that way.
When she looked at my mouth, she said, wow.
The dentist went on to tell him his teeth were unbelievable, and moreover that because he's a smoker, she couldn't go near his mouth.
My teeth were too far gone, and she was allergic to smoke.
Allergic to smoke?
That's what she said, yeah. But she was willing to take out my tooth that was loose, but wasn't willing to take me on as a patient.
NHS dentists are not allowed to pick and choose patients. As his treatment is all clinically necessary, anyone who turns Dennis away is in breach of contract. But from a financial point of view, taking him on makes little sense.
We're paying the hygienist £28. Our lab bill will be about £14 per tooth to add on. And so we will probably end up with about £10 out of the course of treatment.
So for 7 visits as a dental practice, you will get the princely sum of £10.
Correct.
The new NHS contract was designed by the mandarins at the Department of Health to replace a system under which dentists got paid per item of work done, what used to be known as drill and fill.
We want them to work in a simpler way.
Isn't this too simple? I mean, how can it make sense to pay dentists exactly the same for doing 15 minutes of work as it does for months of work?
It's not about looking at individual little items of treatment, which is what you're doing. That's what we're actually trying to get away from. I would hate to think that any dentist would actually put his own financial gain in front of the clinical care of his patients.
It's human nature, isn't it?
I think part of being a professional is you put your patients' rights and your patients' welfare in front of your own.
But in the real world, not all of London's NHS dentists are quite so high-minded, as Dennis found again when he visited another practice in West London.
He looked at my mouth and he said that he couldn't treat my teeth on the NHS. My teeth were too far gone.
Your teeth were too far gone for the NHS?
Yes. But he was willing to do it on the private. It was fatal. It would have been fatal for me if he took a tooth out.
Fatal?
Yeah.
He used that word, fatal?
Yeah.
As in life-threatening?
Well, apparently, yeah.
But if you had a tooth taken out, that you could die?
Well, easy. Yes.
But not if you went private?
Not. No.
Dennis will now be going back to the NHS practice in Fulham, where no one is allergic to his teeth or considers them to be potentially fatal.
This story should end happily enough for Dennis, who can look forward to a fine set of teeth soon. But if his experience with some of the dentists in this report is anything to go by, other high-need patients, and indeed dentists themselves, are getting a rotten deal under the current NHS contract.